I find this next report pretty disturbing. Here recently, the International Criminal Court has decided that it is going to issue arrest warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu and also a number of Hamas leaders. Now, this has come about because clearly a presentation has been made to the International Criminal Court about contraventions of international law that have warranted these arrests. Now, the right wing is kicking up such a fuss, not because Hamas have been called out, no, that wouldn't happen, but certainly are registering their concern because Israel, in terms of Benjamin Netanyahu, have been identified as criminals. And this, of course, is abhorrent to those people on the right who see everything that Israel doing as being anti-Semitic. And their concern, as you're about to see on Sky News, is primarily because Albanese has decided not to make a statement either one way or the other in relation to any of this. They want Albo to simply state that this should not be happening, that Netanyahu is, for whatever reason, some sort of godlike character who deserves to be applauded for what he's done to the Palestinian people in Gaza, not to mention what they're doing to the Palestinian people in West Bank. And somehow these people want to bury their head in the sand and make out that whatever Israeli are doing is always, if criticised, winds up being an anti-Semitic slur. That's simply not the case. To think that if you have an objection towards a government, for whatever reason, it becomes a religious slur against that government or those people. That is crazy thinking. You know, it's a bit like if we criticise the Biden government, for example, that we're criticising Christian rights, which we're not. That for whatever reason, a lot of countries live within a very multicultural society and must embrace all religions and must certainly treat everybody equally. But for some particular reason, this anti-Semitic slur that is presented as an argument simply because you're criticising Israel government and Benjamin Netanyahu is somehow abhorrent to me. I don't understand it. I can't understand why people cannot differentiate between those two entities. The Jewish people are one, it's a religious group, and the Israel government is another, which is a military force and a government of a country. It is as simple as that. What happens in Gaza and the West Bank is about the Palestinian government's decision. It's not about whether you're Jew or Muslim or whatever. It's simply about a particular group of people fighting for another, and some people feeling extremely oppressed through the behaviour of the government and then turning against that government as a result, which to me is quite understandable. If you're oppressed for a certain period of time, there is a good chance that you would find a way, if possible, to revolt against that. Not making an excuse for October the 7th, horrible, said that many times, deal with a terrible thing that should never have occurred. But nevertheless, the response has been way out of proportion with, at this point, over 35,000 people murdered by the Israeli Defence Force. So I just want to play a clip from Sky News, which was released just recently, which highlights where the other side of politics sit in relation to this. And of course, we're going to hear from Michael Kroger, who really represents the extreme version of the Liberal Party. And of course, this will be noted on Sky News, or if you like to call it something else, we call it the Liberal Party Network here. So here is what they have to say.
Let's get some more reaction now to the International Criminal Court seeking arrest warrants, not just against 3 Hamas terrorist leadership, but also the leadership of Israel. Let's bring in Michael Kroger, the former Victorian Liberal Party president, our regular on this program. Michael, appreciate your time. A real contrast in the reaction between Peter Dutton, who described the move as anti-Semitic. He was condemning in his assessment of...
And we need to note that this is what the right wing will do. They will, on every occasion they will make it a religious fight as opposed to what it really is, which is a political argument.
Of the ICC, the Prime Minister, though, more cautious, saying he won't comment on a court case, whether it be domestic or international.
Well, I thought Dutton hit the right note, as Joe Biden did, but I don't know what Albo's doing. The case hasn't started. He's hardly going to be arrested for contempt of court. There are no court proceedings before the ICC. I've been to the ICC, by the way. I went there last year in The Hague and had a look at its proceedings. It does important work. But this is way outside its remit in terms of what it should be doing. Israel are not members of the ICC, nor is America, by the way, or China, or India, or Russia, or Qatar. And the ICC work, sort of seeking the arrest of terrorists and a government defending its very right to exist is absurd and bizarre. And Melanie Phillips, by the way, hit the right note in the Australian newspaper today. But Albo refusing to comment, this is ridiculous. He's obviously not been properly briefed, and I'm sure in the shortness of time he will come out and condemn the ICC because otherwise his comments are inexplicable, or his lack of comment.
I think the fact that Albo's taken a neutral perspective is wrong, because I think he should come out and specifically say that he objects to the behaviour of Israel. And who gives a shit what Biden says? Who gives a shit what anybody else says? It's probably better to be more neutral, but there again, he could be, I think, a little bit more pro-Palestinian in relation to this issue than he is. The thing I wanted to remind people too was about the ICC finding Mladic guilty of genocide in Bosnian war. Now, the International Criminal Court Tribunal to the former, I'll just decrease that in size if I can. You can see it. International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavian Kovic butcher of Bosnia to life imprisonment for Srebrenica, genocide and other war crimes and crimes against humanity. Now, the point I want to make is that when that came out, which was in November 2017, there was no one in the community who said, well, that's wrong. This should not happen. This man has behaved badly, he butchered a lot of people, and that he should be tried, which he was, because he tried to escape from Bosnia, went to a country where the ICC had some authority, and they arrested him and they tried him. Now, at that time, there were little objections, and people would have celebrated ICC for the work they were doing, and they captured this bloke. Now, what I want to say is that there's very little between the butcher of Bosnia and the butcher of Gaza, and that we should consider them two in the same bucket, if you like, and that it is fair and reasonable. Bosnia was insignificant in terms of a country at the time. I guess it didn't have the power and authority or the support. It had the support of the United Nations because they had forces there, but it didn't have the sort of support that Israel gets in terms of military support. And as a result of that, we tend to want to side with the group that we think are our allies, which is Israel, regardless of the horrific behaviour they perpetuate. And this is always about, to me, about identifying that horrible behaviour that is about slaughtering thousands and thousands of innocent people for the sake of a political outcome, which is simply to rid the region of Palestinians. This is what Israel is doing. This is what they plan to do. This is what they hoped would happen, and they are enacting those desires. And it's horrible to think that politicians do not make a stand specifically against them, and eventually the International Criminal Court believes there's enough evidence to be able to arrest them for crimes of genocide. And so, and remembering it's both sides, it's not just the IDF and Benjamin Netanyahu, it's also Hamas as well. So what do you think? I'll be interested to know whether you think we're taking too much of a let's stand back and see approach, or whether we should do the Dutton thing, which is simply by siding with Israel because for whatever reason that is placating the Jewish vote. And I think there is an argument that can be put which simply says, well, there are a number of Muslims in the community, particularly in Labor-held seats, and we don't certainly want to put them offside either. So maybe there's a fine line that has to be walked in relation to all of this, but it wouldn't hurt to call out, because it makes me wonder. I get very distressed about how powerful the Jewish element of it. This isn't anti-Semitic. This is just wondering about how powerful that group of people are to be able to claim that anything that the IDF does is good. Anything that is done on the other side by Muslims is bad. Anything done by Palestinians is bad, and that for whatever reason it's okay to accept the notion that Palestinians need to be eradicated from the Middle East, as is the intent of the IDF. Let me know what you think in the section below. Also comment on my video and ring the bell for further notifications. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, make sure that you and people that you love are safe.